Maxine McNair. And Miss Maxine McNair was the last living parent of any of the 4 Black girls who were killed in the 1963 Alabama church bombing. And she just died on Sunday. And let's put up what the Associated Press wrote. McNair's daughter, 11-year-old Denise McNair, so we want to walk down history lane here, was the youngest girl killed in the bombing of Birmingham's 16th Street Baptist Church, the deadliest single attack of the civil rights movement. Also killed were 3 14-year-olds, Addie Mae Collins, Carol Rosamond Robinson, and Cynthia Donnie Wesley. And you know what, Jink, that is not long ago. On the continuum of history, that was just yesterday that bombing actually happened in the 20th century. And the fact that they were children, the fact that the people who did that just flat out did not give a damn. And we cannot forget, and I'm so happy that we're lifting Maxine McNair, because I know she's probably somebody that very few people know. And she was a teacher, she continued to fight for civil rights. And I know it takes so much, because it really is out of the natural order of things for a parent to have to bury their child, but especially the traumatic way that her daughter and her daughter's friends died is just unconscionable.
Yeah, and her husband also died at the age of 93, and that was about 3 years ago that he died. And he'd gone in and gotten into office, and he was actually one of the very few African Americans in that region to get elected after Reconstruction. And so I love that they gave back to the community, and so it's a great hero of the week. But so it does force us to come face to face with the realities of this country's upbringing, right?
Yeah.
So relative to other cultures, the American culture is still at best a teenager, right?
Right.
So, Chinese culture has been around, for example, for thousands of years, and America's only been around for around 250 years, right? So it's a very young culture, and the culture is steeped in violence. There's just no question about that. And if we're being honest about it, in the South, right-wing culture celebrated terrorism because it was not just exceptions. People would do this type of violence, whether it was intimidation like cross burnings and throwing rocks through people's windows and et cetera, or it was actually lynching them or bombing these poor girls. Denise McNair was the youngest of the 3. She was 11. The others were 14 years old. And that kind of, that's literal terrorism. Anybody would, it's insane to not say it's terrorism. Obviously it is. And that kind of terrorism was normal. And it's the most literal terrorism you've ever heard of, because it was meant to terrorize African Americans in the South, and unfortunately other parts of the country as well, into submission and into not fighting back and into taking away their rights. And so this is gonna, affect the conversation we're gonna have a little bit later in the show. But Nina, for folks who think that the right wing has the same intentions as we do and believes in democracy and doing things the political way, that's not been the history of this country.
No, not at all. And they're delusional. And sometimes, as you know, when we talk about history, because you got this fight against critical race theory, which, you and I have talked about several times, to me, it is really a misconception that we cannot both love this country and critique this country. I believe, what Brother James Baldwin once said about the country. He said, "I love this country more than any other country." I'm paraphrasing him. And for that reason, I reserve the right to critique it. And why? To make it better. And so if we walk around here delusional and pretending that there were not some ugly and bad parts of the formation of this nation, we are insane and willing to accept and turn a blind eye to the pathway to really forge a more perfect union is not to ignore that history, but to understand that history and figure out a way to make things, emphasis on make things better through interaction, through public policy, et cetera, everything at our disposal to do so. But no, you're right, Gene. It's delusion. And to walk around in delusion is a very dangerous thing. That was domestic terrorism. Certain people in this country are not above it. We saw on January 6th, which is today, 1 year later, that portion of America is still there strong. It was just at the surface, but it will bubble up from time to time to remind us that we have so much more work to do. And that's an understatement.
Yeah, I mean, Maxine McNair was the mother of the girl killed in that act of terrorism, which was perfectly normal back then.
That's right.
And she just passed away. It's our lifetimes.
It's our lifetime.
It's right, so this is not hundreds of years ago. This is not thousands of years ago. So we're in the middle of that history right now. And people better wake up, because the right wing in this country is very, very used to violence and using it to intimidate people they don't agree with and people whose rights they want to take away. So we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about that a little bit later in What Would Nina Do?
Before we jump, Jing, I just want to, if we can put up with the McNair family, their statement about the passing of Mrs. McNair. And they said, Mrs. McNair was an amazing wife and mother, and as a teacher of 33 years in the Birmingham public school system, imparted knowledge in the lives of hundreds. We are going to miss her laughter and her humor. The family would appreciate all of your thoughts and prayers. The McNair family statement. And certainly she received in 2013 in an Oval Office ceremony with President Barack Obama, she was awarded one of the country's highest civilian honors, the Congressional Gold Medal. And my God, well deserved. She deserved that and so much more.
Yeah, and I'll add one last thing, which is they all should receive tremendous credit for staying peaceful. I don't know that I would have had that discipline. Picture if that happened to your daughter, no matter what race you are, no matter who you are and where you're from, right? Are you sure you would have remained peaceful? Are you really sure? And she did, and they all did, and it led to some degree of healing, and that's part of what makes her heroic and a wonderful person.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.